Hello, you're listening to the Drawing the Ideal Self podcast for December 2022. Apologies for the sound of my voice. I've had a really bad cold and cough. It's just about going away, but still croaky and occasionally have to cough, so apologies in advance if that happens. Today's episode is going to be talking about what training opportunities there might be for you so that you can build on your PCP interest and knowledge. I'm going to make sure that the details of these organisations are in your show notes so that you can find them easily. The new year is often a time where people start to think about what they want to achieve over the coming year. So I thought it'd be quite a good time to tell you about what is available, and there is a fair bit. The nice thing about PCP is that it's not always too costly. So the first thing to think about is that any personal construct psychology course will include the theory. And when you study the theory, it can feel quite heavy. So most people who are providing courses which are including theory, such as a foundation course or a master's course, will need you to have some kind of qualification. Usually that's some sort of degree. It's not specific about what kind of degree it would be, and you can always try and make an argument that actually, although you don't have a degree, you've got similar qualifications. So it's more that you're able to cope with the intellectual arguments, I guess, and think about how it might apply to other things that you've learned. Obviously, that doesn't apply to anything that you can access online. If you've got an interest and you pursue that, you will develop skills. So this podcast is obviously designed to be as accessible as possible to as wide a range as possible of people who might fancy a sort of beginners to intermediate level of PCP. So there is some theory, but not very much in comparison to the other courses that you would cover. What I try to do all the time is to relate it to very practical examples, because actually people who are studying the theory do find that it is intellectually demanding. The first place that people would often go to would be a foundation course of some kind. We run one at the Coventry Constructivist Centre, which is now an online course at the moment. Probably it'll stay that way for now, at least. And most people are kind of doing either online or blended approaches for trainings these days. I think the experience of COVID has really opened up the possibility of how you can use online resources. However, you miss out on some of the interaction and the real life experience, which when you're doing a foundation course, you would be practicing some of the techniques. Slightly more awkward when you're doing that on a one-to-one on a video call, but it still can be done. So the Coventry Constructivist Centre will have details of our foundation course, and we only run it once a year. The reason for that is it's a voluntary thing. It's not for profit. So if you're interested in that course, you really need to get your name onto the waiting list, because then you will get a copy of the flyer as soon as it comes out. The places are very limited. We only have 16, and when they're gone, they're gone. So you need to be in a position where, ideally you've negotiated the payment with your work organisation, or you're willing to pay for yourself, and you can get cracking straight away as soon as the flyer comes out and book your place. We're now running that course in the autumn term, so it runs right across the autumn term in 2-hour sessions. And sometimes people have wondered why we don't do longer sessions, but it requires an awful lot more concentration and attention to do a whole morning session, and the material is quite demanding. So we don't want to wear people out, so we've spread it over a longer period, and we also have a book that you buy to go with that course so that the required reading is done before the session. Again, we've tried very hard to make that an accessible book so that it's not a tough read, but it does include the information that you need. Just as an example, in 2022, this course ran from the 6th of October up until the 15th of December. The book that we have to go with the course is linked to the sessions. The book's not expensive and can be used without the course if you want to do it that way. So the book's only about £7 this year. and the course was only £195 this year. That may change next year, so just for now you can get an idea of roughly what it will be. Kathy Sparks and Adele Pyle also run a PCP Foundation course, and both of them have been interviewed on this podcast. So they do an introductory day, and that's followed by 5 days foundation course. It is delivered over Zoom, and the cost is £100 a day. Claire Morris also offers a foundation course, so her website is called Telling a Story, Making a Difference. And her courses will run in 3-day units. At the moment, I'm not sure whether they are courses that can be done online with her or whether they're all face-to-face. So that will cost about £900 for the 3 days. There's a new course which is starting this year in Padua, Italy. It's a 2-year master's course, but it also is run online. So you don't have to go to Padua every time. You do have to go a couple of times, but it should be accessible wherever you are in the world. You do have to have a degree that's relevant for PCP if you're applying for this course. Or it does say the equivalent. The idea of that course is that it's a more advanced level. This is a master's and it's run through Padua University. I have to say, on the pictures it looks absolutely beautiful, so it might be quite a nice place to visit. The cost of that course is €3,229. I'm not sure if that's each year or total because it doesn't make it very clear on the website. Studying this course does require you to do practical application of PCP in an area of employment or volunteering. So that could be that you're working as an educational psychologist and you've got to use PCP practice in that. It does mean that you also have to pay for a supervisor for that work. The George Kelly Society has various pages that might be useful to you. But also on their news feed, they will have details of the upcoming conferences. The next International Congress on PCP will be held in Barcelona, Spain, from the 10th to the 13th of July 2023. That Congress will move. Then you've got the Coventry Constructivist Centre, which is the one that I'm involved with, and we offer quarterly study days. And the topics are all sorts of things. So things that come up while we're teaching a foundation course might be included in the workshops, or things that we realise we've never covered. So recently we had one on sleep. So if I tell you this year's programme, we've done sessions on the community of self, on the choice corollary and using everyday media to explore construing Christmas, thinking ahead to issues that arise in our work each autumn, and then working with sleep, dreams and nightmares, a PCP approach. The other thing about these is if you would like to suggest a topic, you can do that by emailing sally@covpcp.com. The chances are that other people will also be interested in that topic. And what we usually do is get whatever papers are around for a topic, have a look at those, design something that will be theoretically sound, but also have some practical elements. So there's always something where you'll be working with another person, exploring and using PCP. These very cheap study sessions, and they're all 2 hours. So they run from 2 till 4 on a Friday afternoon. I know that may not be perfect for some people, but on the whole, that seems to be quite convenient when you're working with organisations, say like schools or clinics. So Friday afternoon can be a bit easier. So for those sessions, the cost at the moment is £5 a time. You also get a copy of the slides. The International School of Personal Construct Psychology provides learning and development programmes at their base, which is near Padua in Italy, and they sometimes do residential programmes. The International School is specialising in PCP for coaching and consulting in organisations. So it has a number of courses that are related to that. They will also work with groups of people at their own location so they can come to you. It's quite easy to get to Padua because it's very near Venice. So you can fly in easily, and you could also combine it with a nice cultural visit. Now, if you've done a foundation course, or if you've just got very interested in PCP and you're doing your own studies, there are ways that you can increase your knowledge by talks by experts. There's a series of videos which were filmed from 2020-2022. During COVID they began, as an alternative to the conference that couldn't be held. These are available online and they don't cost you anything to watch. And they cover quite a range of topics, so some are very theoretical, some are much more practical and related to daily practice in different professions. The speakers for these are people who are very well known, so it's worth having a look at those. A really good thing as well is that information for the videos is organised by topic, so you can quite quickly find videos related to your own area of practice. There are also various videos about PCP, and these are usually videos of a talk or a lecture that's given rather than a workshop, because that works a bit less well, but there are a couple of those too. Some of them are interviews with the practitioner, talking about their work and the way they might use things. The best place to find these is starting with UKCP, which is the UK organisation for personal construct psychology, or the George Kelly Society. There are two in particular that could be useful for people who are in the process of further training anyway, so maybe qualifying as an educational psychologist or clinical psychologist or counselling. So Viv Burr has done a couple which are about using research methods in PCP. They're really useful to watch. There are some PCP journals which you can get hold of. They should be able to show up in a library search, but also they have an online presence. These are worth knowing about in case you want to publish your own work for PCP, but also so that you can find whatever the latest thinking is on things. So the first one of these is a paid journal, and it's the most heavy theoretically, and is not just about personal construct psychology, it's other forms of constructivism. So it's called the Journal of Constructivist Psychology. There's an Italian journal, which is AIPPC. So that's an Italian association of PCP. Those issues for that journal are free, but you need to register in order to get them. And obviously the link for this will be in the show notes. There's a journal called Constructivist Foundations, which is also free. And again, that emphasises the constructivist rather than the personal constructivist. So PCP would be included within it, but it isn't focused only on PCP. That is available online at constructivist.info. Personal Construct Theory and Practice is a journal that's available online, but it hasn't had any recent publications in it. That doesn't mean that you wouldn't find it useful to read all the past ones, and they are available on the website. So these are the main kinds of things that are available at the moment, and obviously that can change. We're in 2022 now, just at the end, so who knows what the next year will bring. But the idea really of letting you know is that if you want to take your PCP further, you've got some options. You don't have to just read books. I hope you'll have a think about it and see what you want to take further. Of course, I would love you to stay listening to my podcast, and we'll hopefully engage in some PCP professional development over the coming year. I wish you all the best for the new year and hope things go really well for you. I'm hoping to get rid of this cold. That's my current ambition for the new year. So I'll see you again at the end of January. Thanks for listening. Bye.